Hello everyone, welcome to my philosophy channel. As you already gathered from the title, we are going to talk about environmental ethics, a topic that for the past decades has been getting more and more attention, but the aim of this short series of lectures is to simply educate about the different philosophical positions about what ethical commitments we truly have to the environment. In other words, people nowadays do largely care about the environment, but I want to look at the why. Why is it that we should care about the environment at all? The answer to this question can be generally divided into three worldviews. One is human-centered, or to use the ancient Greek term for human, it is anthropocentric, meaning that we should care about the environment because of the effects the environment has on humans. The second perspective is animal-centered, also called zoocentric, suggesting that we should care about the environment both because of its effects on humans and non-humans. And then we have the third one, which is life-centered, deriving from the ancient Greek term for life. It is biocentric, meaning that we should be caring about life in general, regardless of whether it possesses consciousness. I will accordingly divide this lecture into three videos. In this one, which is the first one, we will look at anthropocentrism, because through history this has been the dominant view. Aristotle, for example, has said that nature was made specifically for the needs of humans, who have a right to use all the resources that they find. In his biological studies, he distinguishes between three kinds of life, one being the vegetative soul, which relates to an organism's growth. Then we have the animal soul, which relates to an organism's movement and feeling. And then we have the rational soul, which is an organism's ability to think. Correspondingly, plants possess only the first kind of soul, animals possess the first two, while only humans have all of the three. Given our supremacy over the other two, humans can do with animals and plants as they desire, with no ethical considerations over the well-being of anything other than human life. This view achieves its height in the 17th century, when the new science of mechanics offers a framework to explain the behavior of plants and animals in terms of non-oriented physical movements. Given this insight, the philosopher René Descartes argued that plants and animals are not a form of life at all, but rather inanimate objects that work like an intricate clockwork mechanism, let's say. In that view, the squealing of an animal in pain is nothing more than a machine making noises. Removing the vegetative and animal souls from the picture, only the human soul remains, because according to the 17th century view at least, a human's behavior is too complex to be accounted by anything other than the idea of free will, which incidentally is also what God has given us in order to make us choose between love and sin. Accepting this picture, Descartes influenced a whole new wave of anthropocentrism, which looked at animals and nature as something with absolutely no moral standing. Nonetheless, many thinkers observed that when we see someone torturing an animal, for example, it does feel very wrong. Why would that be if we don't care about animals at all? Well, the 18th century philosopher Immanuel Kant proposed that what's truly going on with our moral intuition is that we are appalled by the pointless cruelty of a human torturing the animal, because what we truly care about is not the animal that is hurt, but that such a cruel person shows a disposition to also act in such a way towards a human. So if the logic being that if you can be cruel towards an animal, you could also be cruel towards a human. And that is a trait that we are, of course, appalled by. Kant concludes that we shouldn't torture animals, but not because of the welfare of animals, but because of ourselves, because such behavior would strengthen our disposition towards being cruel to other humans. And that, of course, would be immoral. Aristotle's suggestion that nature was made for humanity echoes in the Judeo-Christian commandment that God has given man dominion over nature. Historically, this view has definitely contributed to our careless treatment of our environment, although the church itself is not favoring such an interpretation of the Bible. Rather, the view is adopted that we are merely stewards whom God entrusted with his creation. Hence, it is our moral responsibility to take good care of the world. As we read in Pope Francis' 2015 encyclical titled "Praise be to you, my Lord," he says that if we approach nature and the environment without openness to awe and wonder, if we no longer speak the language of fraternity and beauty in our relationship with the world, our attitude will be that of masters, consumers, ruthless exploiters, unable to set limits on their immediate needs. So it seems that this view does give some value to the environment itself, and namely to God's creation. So this can be called an instance of weak anthropocentrism, meaning that humans are still given special moral standing, but not exclusively so. According to this view, we have to value both the welfare of animals and the equilibrium of the environment, let's say, although we have to value it less than we value human life. A modern defender of anthropocentrism can argue that when we talk about environmental concerns, we are mainly doing that because of our concerns for humans. It is also not true that if we only care about humanity, that we won't care about the environment at all. Our existence, after all, is closely tied to the environment being and staying inhabitable. Hence, only short-sighted logic would let us harm the environment indefinitely for our purposes. This would and probably will backfire drastically. A human-centered ethic can also extend our moral considerations to humans that haven't been born yet, thus extending our commitments to the environment so that Earth will remain inhabitable in the future. Thus, it seems that in principle, a solely human-centered ethic can prescribe great care for the environment. An example of this perspective manifesting itself would be people who go vegan, but not because of their care for animals, but because of how they think the meat industry affects humans through water pollution, CO2 emissions, and resource consumption. So they would argue, for example, that abolishing the meat industry would free up enough resources so that we would eradicate human malnourishment altogether. To this day, anthropocentrism remains the default and most widely held ethical perspective. As we will see in the following two videos, however, it is being widely contested. On the one hand, critics will argue that our moral intuitions go far beyond concerns for just other humans, and on the other hand, there seems to be no true rational ground on which to argue for the moral supremacy of human beings over, let's say, other animals. If we care about humans, the thought goes, there's no reason to draw the line around our species to exclude other ones. In the last video, we will also consider some ideas of different thinkers that argue that not only humans and other animals have some kind of moral standing, but also things like plants and the environment itself also do. So, what are your thoughts on anthropocentrism and its relation to environmental ethics? Do you find it convincing or not so much? Let me know in the comments. I love to read them. As you know, I don't get many, so you can trust me that I read every one of them. And I'm especially happy if there's a discussion going on in the comments. I love to join them, as you know. So you're invited right now into the comment section below. Let's talk about it. And until next time.